Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Devo with Bowo. So glad you guys are enjoying all the music, the different jams that we're playing. Hey, great. Um, yeah, I saw that you guys were commenting in the comment corner this morning, and I think it was Jonathan that said, "Hey man, I should play an instrument. That would be awesome." And yeah, that would be. Playing an instrument is such a joy. I tell you. I never, ever um, am bummed that I learned how to play an instrument. That was something that I'm just grateful I did. So, welcome to the morning devotion with Bo Willette, Bo O. And that's what these are, is morning devotions. Time for us to get together just in the comment corner too and say hi to one another. And again, lift one another up in prayer and being having each other on our minds, and that's always so important. And it is a little nippy outside, by the way. That's right. It is, slowly getting to be ski season. Ski season already opened up in Colorado, parts of Colorado, which my brother and I were keeping an eye on. I'm pretty excited about that, and yeah, I'd love to get out in the snow and just see those trees just absolutely covered with all that beautiful snow. And I mean, isn't that why we kind of like those Christmas? I guess they're like semi-romantic shows that are always on. It's the person's off on a trip or something, and they meet someone, and it's in Breckenridge, Colorado or something like that. But we always kind of enjoy that show. I don't know about you, but it's, for me, it's definitely the snow. Anything where I could see the white snow, I just find it really beautiful and kind of awe-inspiring. So we're in chapter 20 today of First Samuel. It kind of picks up in this narrative where David is not in good terms, not on good terms with the current king of Israel, and that is Saul. And we had some interesting things from last chapter. Really, David seeking the Lord, Saul seemingly seeking the Lord, but Saul just not really getting a lot out of it. And remember, it didn't have to do with. It's funny, we can go to a church and sometimes we go, I didn't get much out of it. But, a lot of times that's not a sign of what is going on maybe on a stage, or at the altar, so to speak. But a lot of times it has to do with what's going on in your heart, of what you get out of it or what you don't, you know. That's not every time, but a lot of times. And that's certainly what happened in the last chapter. But here we see it says, then David fled. So he's not doing too well, right? He's fleeing from Naioth at Ramah and went to Jonathan, his bro, right? Jonathan, his good friend, his best friend, and asked, what have I done? What is my crime? How have I wronged your father, that he is trying to take my life? So pretty sounds like a straight question, right? You ever got in a conversation and you thought you were being pretty clear, and but people weren't getting it? Never, Jonathan replied. You are not going to die. Look, my father doesn't do anything, great or small, without, let me turn the page, without confiding in me. Why would he hide this from me? It's not so. Now, Jonathan might have just, loved his dad a lot, even though his dad was off his rocker and had some issues, right? It's like Jonathan loved him, and maybe he's thinking the best about his pop. Maybe he just didn't realize, maybe he didn't know everything his dad had done that was kind of off the cuff and weird. But for whatever reason, Jonathan seems to think like, hey, if my dad's going to kill you, David, he's definitely going to let me know, because he's already done that before. He's let Jonathan know. And Jonathan, remember, talked him down. But Jonathan here is thinking the best of his dad. And, I think of a passage in the New Testament where it says, love hopes all things, right? It believes all things. It hopes all things, man. I mean, love does hope all things. It's wanting to see the best in the other. It's It's, hoping for the best in the other. And Jonathan definitely displays that. And, this morning I want to, have that kind of love too. I don't want to be the negative guy all the time. Just, it's the negative thing. It's looking at someone and seeing the negative. Maybe God will save that person. Oh, I love that kind of attitude. Maybe God will touch that person. You see someone and you go, oh man, this is what's wrong with the world, is these kind of people. Maybe God's going to touch that person. Let's pray for that person. Oh man, hope, right? Hope believes. Hope is, it's part of love. And I think it's so important for us today to exemplify, to exude that kind of hope that, yeah, God can speak to people and touch people, even the most radical. And hey, remember, our New Testament is written by quite a radical terrorist, so who became a very peaceful man. Paul the Apostle calls himself an insolent man at one point in the New Testament, meaning a pretty angry person and pretty bitter, bummed, But here, Jonathan's not like that. Jonathan seems to think of the best in his pop. He's hoping all things, man. It says, but David took an oath and said, your father knows very well that I have found favor in your eyes, and he has said to himself, Jonathan must not know this, or he will be grieved. Yet as surely as the Lord lives and as you live, there is only a step between me and death. So David just lays it on the line. Hey, your David knows the situation between you and I, and your dad's probably trying to hide something from you, not to bum you out, but he's trying to kill me. And I like how David says, there is only a step between me and death. And that's pretty neat, I think, statement. There's only a step between me and death, meaning I could die at any day. And just to know that today could be my final day. And what am I going to do today? Right? Live every moment as an important moment. Jonathan said to David, whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you. So David said, look, tomorrow is the new moon festival, and I am supposed to dine with the king. So now we get this narrative in this section of something that's going to happen, this event that's going to happen where Saul's going to be there. And David and Jonathan are concoct this kind of way of communicating and saying, hey, this is whether we know if your dad's really tweaked or not against me. So we'll read through it just so you know what's going on. It says, if your father misses me at all, tell him. So David's not going to go, it says, to this event. It says he's supposed to be there. He's supposed to dine with the king. But let me go and hide. So David's going to hide in the field until the evening of the day after tomorrow. And if your father misses me at all, tell him David earnestly asked my permission to hurry to Bethlehem, his hometown, because an annual sacrifice is being made there for his whole clan. If he says, very well, then your servant is safe. But if he loses his temper, you can be sure that he is determined to harm me. And as for you, show kindness to your servant, for you have brought him into a covenant with you before the Lord. If I am guilty, then kill me yourself. Why hand me over to your father? So David says, hey, this is it. I'm supposed to be at the meeting. If I'm not at the meeting, your dad gets mad. Hey, it means he really wants to kill me. Jonathan, man, we've made a covenant together as brothers, as warriors together, people who fought in the trenches together. Man, if I did something wrong, you take me out. Man, if I'm off my rocker, if something's wrong with me and I deserve death, the death penalty, then man, you need to do that. You come at me and it's okay, And so never, Jonathan said. He says, no way, bro. You haven't done anything wrong. So this is a real bro passage, right? This is a real bro section of just like, Jonathan going, yo, what? No way, man, you're my bro. If I had the least inkling that my father was determined to harm you, wouldn't I tell you? David asked, who will tell me if your father answers you harshly? Come, Jonathan said, let's go out into the field. So they went together. They go, hey, let's go to a secret place and let's kind of map this out of how this is going to work. Then Jonathan said to David, "By the Lord God of Israel, I will surely sound out my father by this time of day after tomorrow. If he is favorable toward you, will I not send you word and let you know? But if my father is inclined to harm you, may the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if I do not let you know and send you away safely." Jonathan says, I'm going to let you know, God my witness, I'm going to let you know, and I'm going to give you, forewarning so you can get out of here. "And may the Lord be with you, as he has been with my father. And may the Lord be with you." And the idea is Jonathan saying, hey, man, just as God has raised up Saul to be king, my dad is king, may God do the same with you. I love it, man. Jonathan's for David. And I just love that kind of friendship, man, for one another, for what God's doing in each other's life. Just really your relationship is built on God. It's built on God's work and God's word. And those kind of friendships are absolutely beautiful, right? What brings us together is that common denominator of the Lord and the Lord's working in our lives, right? I mean, we all had relationships in the past that were built on other things, right? They were built on all kinds of common denominators. I can think of many. But, those don't last too long, do they? There's not a lot of substance to those things, that those things can't hold us together. There's got to be something deeper that holds us together. And God is the greatest, so it's logically figures that would be the greatest glue to hold a friendship together. And it says, "But show me unfailing kindness like that of the Lord as long as I live, so that I may not be killed, and do not ever cut off your kindness from my family. Not even when the Lord has cut off every one of David's enemies from the face of the earth." So Jonathan says, hey, man, I want you to be kind to my family when you become king. See, this is the idea, is Jonathan knows that that David's going to be king. Now, Jonathan's a prince. Jonathan's supposed to be the next in line, kind of quote, quote, right? Kind of in the way the culture moves, to be the king. But notice how Jonathan is so willing to play second fiddle. See, Jonathan can not only play the lead in the symphony, right? The violin concerto. He not only can play the lead, but he can also take a back seat and play, second fiddle. He can do both. And I love that in friendships, man. You could take the lead when it's needed, but you can also what? Jump back. Let others lead. Let someone else, serve them. What is your service like? Do you serve other people? Not just doing what you want to do, but humbling yourself before other people. Literally considering them better than you, as Philippians chapter 2 says. Right? This is the Jesus way. And this is the way that we want to go as Christians. We want to follow Jesus. Jesus considered others better than himself. Through the act of humility. And this is what's cool about Jonathan. Don't you think so? Don't you think, Jonathan just has a wonderful grasp of being able to just take the back seat? So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, "May the Lord call David and David's enemies to account." And Jonathan and David reaffirmed his oath out of love for him, because he loved him as he loved himself. Love others as you love yourself, right? Yeah. Do good to others as you would want done to yourself. Wow, you see the principles right here. Isn't that cool? God, am I loving other people like I care about myself? Do I think of other people as I think about myself? Do I, as I take care of my own needs, do I think of other people in that way? Help me to have that kind of attitude, that kind of thought. You see something in the society, we need to talk to maybe the governor, we need to talk to the mayor. Ask them, hey, what is it that we're doing as a society to help out people? Help out these people. What is your plan as mayor? Because they are in a position of power. If they don't get back to you, maybe they don't care about the issue. And maybe we need to vote someone else in, right? Maybe they just are, that kind of idea. But we do what we can do, right? We try, we're cognitive of the situation. And so The plan is going to now get enacted. And so Jonathan said to David, tomorrow at the noon moon festival, you will be missed because your seat will be empty. The day after tomorrow, toward evening, go to the place where you hid when this trouble began and wait at the stone easel. I will shoot 3 arrows to the side of it, as though I were shooting at a target. Then I will send a boy and say, go find the arrows. If I say to him, look, the arrows are on this side of you, bring them here, then come, because as surely as the Lord lives, you are safe. There is no danger. But if I say to the boy, look, the arrows are beyond you, they're way far away from that rock, right? It says, then you must go, right? Then you gotta go. And then David's going to have to split. And about the matter you and I discussed, remember, the Lord is witness between you and me forever. Hey, we made that covenant. You're going to take care of my family no matter what happens when you become king. So David hid in the field, and when the new moon festival came, the king sat down to eat, and he sat in his custom place by the wall opposite Jonathan. And Abner sat next to Saul, and David's place was empty. And Saul said nothing that day, for he thought something must have happened to David to make him ceremonially unclean. Surely he is unclean. But the next day, the second day of the month, David's place was empty again. And Saul said to his son Jonathan, why hasn't the son of Jesse come to the meal, yet either yesterday or today? And Jonathan answered, David earnestly asked me for permission to go to Bethlehem. He said, let me go because our family is observing the sacrifice in the town that my brother ordered me to be there. He ordered me to be there. And I have found favor in your eyes. Let me get away to my brothers. That is why he has not come to the king's table. So they go over the plan. I mean, Jonathan's enacting the plan right now to his dad. Saul's anger flared up at Jonathan, and he said to him, you son of a perverse and rebellious woman, don't I know that you have sided with the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of your mother who bore you? As long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. Now send and bring him to me, for he must die. Saul sniffs something out, and he goes, man, something's not right. And then he realizes, hey, my son is his best friend. And I just know that my son is harboring David, giving him a safe place to be at. And what is in Saul's heart? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Saul says things to him that, he probably regrets, right? Have you ever said things to your kids that you regret saying? Something you said that was harsh or not good, something you called them a name. And you wish so badly you could take it back, but it already left, your mouth. And it already had its impact. Oh man, what a burden that is, on any human being to use our tongue unwisely. God, help us not to be like Saul in this area. He had a lot of anger towards David, and that anger just could not stay still. It could not he didn't deal with it properly. Instead, it came out. The anger that we have in our heart will come out. It's funny, if you're angry at all the politics of the world and the government and this and that, and if you're angry and you don't do things productive to deal with that anger, it will come out. It'll come out some way. So we got to deal more better with that. And obviously the first thing is take it to the Lord. Take it to your friends. Talk to them about why you're angry. Then act on it. Maybe act productively on it. Maybe put something into action so that you're working on why, remedying why you're angry. That kind of thing. But Saul, man, he just goes for it. Why should he be put to death? What has he done? Jonathan asked his father, and Saul hurled his spear at him to kill him. Then Jonathan knew that his father intended to kill David. Wow. So, hey, Saul hurls another spear, gets crazy and starts throwing his spears around once again, this time at his own son. And this is the progression of anger, right? It becomes absolutely nonsensical, where pretty soon you're getting angry at everybody, right? Have you ever talked to that person on the phone, where you call them up and you want to see how they're doing, and all they're talking about is politics? All they're talking about is what's going on in the world. You go to church and that's all they talk about. It's all what's going on in the world. It's not about Jesus. It's not about what Jesus is doing in people's lives. It's not about that. It's about everything that's going on in the world. And you can see that they're just super angry, just super disturbed. Everything's bothering them. It's just so overwhelming and things like that. And it becomes chaotic, right? It becomes like it's taken over, And maybe that's what the beast wants, right? Maybe that's what the beast wants, is for it to take you over, to get you off your game, right? And what's your game? Serve the Lord. Evangelize. Make disciples. And instead, what do? You watch more, and you criticize more, and you complain more. All that. Rough, right? We got to turn off the noise, right? We got to turn off the noise. Get focused on our call. Saul gets so focused on politics. My son's supposed to be the next king. He's the prince. He's supposed to be. Don't you realize David's messing up our whole plan? See, it's all on the here and now. It's all on the power structure. It's all on having power. It's all on creating power, making more power, continuing your power. That's all what these structures are doing. That's all what they're there to do, is survive and become greater and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you know what? We got to get off that. We got to focus on what our call is, right? And so Jonathan got up from the table in fierce anger, and on the second day of the month he did not eat, because he was grieved at his father's shameful treatment of David. I bet, and him, right? Throwing a spear at him must have been pretty scary. And in the morning Jonathan went out to the field for the meeting with David. He had a small boy with him, and he said to the boy, "Run and find the arrows I shoot." And as the boy ran, he shot an arrow beyond the rock, right where David was at. Then the boy came to the place where Jonathan's arrow had fallen. Jonathan called out after him, "Isn't the arrow beyond you?" Then he shouted, "Hurry, go quickly, don't stop." The boy picked up the arrow and returned to his master. The boy knew nothing of all this, only Jonathan and David knew. Then Jonathan gave his weapon to the boy and said, "Go carry them back to town." After the boy had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone and bowed down before Jonathan 3 times with his face to the ground. Wow, that must have been super emotionally powerful. And they kissed each other and wept together, but David wept the most. Wow. I mean, what a special time, right? That Middle Eastern love, man, that Middle Eastern affection. Sometimes us people in this country, we get a little freaked out by affection. But back then, man, even now, you go to some places in the world and they know how to be affectionate. We shake hands here. That's kind of our, like, hey, kind of a little bit close, but not too close, right? Well, in those days, man, and in that area of the world, they really embraced one another. They loved one another. They really showed affection towards one another. Very cool, but a little interesting for us, right? In our culture. And they wept. And Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship." And this is why we love David too, man. He was a real person, emotional, and I love that. He said, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, 'The Lord is witness between you and me, between your descendants and my descendants forever.'" Then David left, and Jonathan went back to the town, right? So they have this moment. Hey, am I willing to have these moments? Am I willing to have emotion? Am I willing to cry with my brother? Am I willing to embrace? Am I willing to show affection? If not, why? Why am I afraid of emotion? Why am I afraid to cry? Why am I afraid of embracing? What is it about me? Why does it feel weird? What is the deal? What is the thing, that's going on within me that creates this kind of problem? where I cannot be very affectionate. I cannot be very embracing. I can't be very emotional. And I always love when I listen to some of the elderly, because they say, as I've gotten older, I cry more. And I always laugh and go, man, that's so cool. As you get older, there's these moments where you can cry, you can feel more. You're not trying to hold it all together. Things really do matter to us human beings. They really do affect us. And it's cool that we can show that affection, right? God, help us to be, very aware that we are emotional beings and that things affect us. And it's okay for us to cry, and to show emotion. Help us, Father, not to be like Saul, that's erratic in his, emotions. Help us to keep our emotions before you, Lord. But Father, help us not go to the other side where we don't want to show any emotion, right? Or become indifferent to situations. So cool Devo, cool chapter, cool stuff to think about throughout the day, okay? So you guys have a good one. Always good being in the morning Devo with Bowo. Take care. Bye-bye.